November 1 is upon us on Friday. And, it gives the opportunity for all the players and other clubs, etc., to potentially sign a player from a club. And for the Broncos, well, the Broncos have got 14 players that are in this boat. They lead the way with the Bulldogs, who also have 14 players off contract. And for the Broncos, the Tigers and Eels are the other two teams that have 14 players off contract. Now, when you're juggling the salary cap and you need to keep retention and recruitment, it's a real pivotal part of success, and it's a pivotal part of what you're forecasting in the next few years. And some of the players that are off contract, I'll just read you the Bronco players who are able to negotiate or off contract come November 1. Adam Reynolds, Blake Moser, Corey Jensen, Corey Pakes, Fletcher Baker, Israel Leota, Jack Gojeski, Jaden Hunt, Kobe Hetherington, Katoni Staggs, Reece Walsh, Selwyn Cobo, Tyson Smoothie, Xavier Willison. So I thought I'd just go through players who I think are priorities, Heels, and love to hear what you've got to say here also. But for the Broncos, this is some of the must-keeps for me. So they need to try and do what they can to keep. Xavier Willison, for mine, is a priority. I think he, at 22 years of age, he is a unique middle forward with his best football well and truly still ahead of him. And we've seen enough of Xavier. He's a big body, he's mobile, he's got good minutes in him. I think we've seen enough from Xavier to go, he is a must-keep.
Now, what's his motivation here? So why have Brisbane let him get onto this list? So that they've not signed him quickly. What are they waiting for?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a great question because you can upgrade and extend before such time as Friday, right?
So they've got no money left, or they're waiting to see how much they're going to have left.
I think there's a few deck chairs to be moved around because Xavier Willison, for mine, I think anyway, is a priority. Reece Walsh is, by all reports, as said to have agreed to terms. Still yet, in my understanding, has not signed. Priority. Also, both those players, 22 years of age. So you've got some great football ahead of them. Their best football is still ahead of them. And you can start to mould and build a club around these sorts of players. Now, Corey Jensen, for mine, 30 years of age. I think Corey Jensen is one of those players. He won't get the accolades. He won't get the, the rewards of the likes of Payne Haas and Pat Carrigans and the like. But at the right price, I think Corey Jensen well and truly should have his role at the Brisbane Broncos.
Good call. I agree. And now that he goes shopping around and he can talk to others, does it put a little bit of pressure on Brisbane to keep him?
Absolutely could do. So there might be, say, that for example's sake, the Tigers that go, well, we could do with the Corey Jensen in our team. We'll offer you 100, 150 more, which then puts pressure on Brisbane to hold him. So as I said, at the right price. Now, the big talking points out of this is going to be, obviously, Selwyn Cobo at 22 years of age and Katoni Staggs at 26 years of age. These two players are going to demand a lot of money on the open market. They are able to talk to clubs as of Friday. Can they hold both of them? I don't believe they can.
Need some loyalty, don't we?
I don't believe they can. I hope they can, but I just don't think that's going to happen. So flip a coin on who you may or may not need there. Kobe Hetherington, at 25 years of age, was told under Kevy's tutelage that he could obviously go and talk to other clubs. He's been said to say that the Broncos will honour that deal. I think Kobe Hetherington, again, at the right price, can certainly bolster your forward pack, given the fact that he's got great leg speed, he's tough, defensively very good. Fletcher Baker. Didn't really get an opportunity this year, Fletcher Baker. He's still young, still 24 years of age.
Is he really?
He's only 24. He didn't get a lot of opportunity. He's a big body. And I think, and I would persist with Fletcher Baker, again, all at the right price.
Yeah, or to cover for Corey Jensen if you happen to lose him.
Well, at 24, as a middle forward, your best years as a middle forward come later in your development. You look at the best middle forwards in the game, that they've played over 100 games. They've been in that role for a long period of time. The last one that falls into that list for me, and again, is Blake Moser. He got the Rookie of the Year this year for the Broncos. Have I seen enough from Blake? Well, he hasn't played enough to have seen enough. You've seen some green shoots, whether he's 20 years of age, so he's obviously still got his best football ahead of him. I'd love to see him under Madge Maguire, which we'll see this year. So I think it's important, again, all at the right price. Now, some of these players you're going to have to pay based on their potential. Obviously, Reece Walsh is going to get paid on his potential. I would think either Selwyn Cobbo, Katoni Staggs, and or Xavier Wilson. I've got a big rap on Xavier Wilson. I think if he went to the open market, he might be really surprised on what he may find come across his desk, because middle forwards that are 6'4" and 115 odd kilos that can run and move and laterally are hard to find, Heels. So out of that list, there's, as I said, there was 14 players. The players that haven't made that list, and you know, there's no disrespect to these players. Adam Reynolds, I think, he's got obviously 2025. It's a long season again. We saw how we struggled this year at different stages with injury, and that's again not a shot at Adam Reynolds, but Father Time does catch up with you. So that'll be a delicate process. So Adam Reynolds is not in that list. Corey Pakes, Israel Leota, Jack Gajewski, Jaden Hunt, and also Tyson Smoothie. So again, as I touched on earlier, there's normally about 7 to 9 players out of a list every year that gets moved on. So you could go through all the lists of all the teams, and you could probably make an argument, just go, well, okay, the Broncos, if they lose somebody like a Selwyn Cobbo or a Katoni Staggs, I don't think it'll be both, but say they lose one of them, well, then you sort of go, well, hang on, we need to fill a centre role or an outside back role. And you go, well, so then you start scouring through the list of players on all the other teams. And one name that's just, come to mind straight away was playing for PNG, Robert Derby, 6'4", 100 kilos. He's only very young himself. So he's only 20, what's Robert Derby, 22. So his best football still ahead of him. So this is how recruitment retention is done. It's done over a period of time. You forecast, over the next 4 to 5 years what that looks like, and do your best.
This never stops.
It does not never stop.
Then the manager comes in with a weird proposal or wants more years than you were willing to give, and that could cost you the whole contract. Oh, it's hard work. What about the Dolphins? Are a bit of an interesting one to me.
Yeah, the Dolphins only have 7 players that are on that list. And, out of the 7 players, I've earmarked 2 for mine. Connolly Lemuelu,
yes,
who's the edge back rower for Wolfie's team. I think he is a player that they can keep. He's been very steady. He'll still has his best football, still quite young. Felice Kafusi is the interesting one. So Felice is 32, but what Felice, I think he still has, again, this is all at the right price. It'd be a trim deal for Felice because he went there on a big deal. And the other players that are there, Harrison Graham, Josh Kerr, Kenny Bromwich, Mark Nichols and Sean O'Sullivan, I would be more than happy to, again, nothing personal, it's just business, more than happy to move them on go if they were able to find another club.
So, and, of course, so when you're saying Jaden Hunt's 24, he'll be going on to the 26 mark in 2 years' time, eh? And so that's another thing you're looking at. He'll be in the prime of his time.
Yeah, so, I mean, look, there's plenty to unfold in what's coming on Friday. And again, there'll be a lot of people, a lot of clubs waiting to see, well, if player A goes or stays or goes. And again, like I said, the thing about Addo Carr, if he potentially moves on from the Bulldogs, and now all of a sudden there's a wing spot open, they've got a lot of cash up their sleeve, and they go to market.
Yeah. Hey, is Robert Derby associated with the Cowboys at the moment?
He is, yes. Huh. He's had a horrific run with injury, but the Cowboys, if we just want to skim over those, for example,
Zach Labert's got to stay.
So Zach Labert has to stay in my eyes. 22 years of age. Tom Duffy, 22 years of age. Harrison Edwards, 24 years of age. Derby, 22. So you can't keep them all. Okay, so for the Cowboys, the players that I'd be looking to really sort of keep, Jake Clifford. Obviously, they've lost Townsend. We saw Jake Clifford come into the Cowboys later in the year. Reece Robson current Australian player yet to play for Australia.
He's younger than I thought too. He's only 26, I think, isn't he?
He's obviously the New South Wales hooker. Zach Labert, who did his knee, Tom Duffy and Harrison Edwards. The players that are then on the let-go list, Braden Burns, Tom Chester, Robert Derby, Viliami Vialia, and also, So it's a juggling act at best. It's something that gives some of the recruitment and retention sort of officers headaches over time, but it is part of the game. And
you can't be too young. You've got to be balanced.
I mean,
you've got to have enough of each of those defensive positions.
Right. You go through some of the players, and you go to the Panthers, and they're a team that generally don't lose players they want to keep. So you go through the Panthers list, and you could probably pull one or two out and go, oh, yeah, they're not too bad. Someone like a Sony Luke that has done that role. But then you go to Melbourne, who will have their hands full. Now, it's interesting to see Ryan Pappenhausen, if he goes onto the open market on Friday, because they've just signed Su'a Fa'alongo for a 5-year deal. But they've got Tyron Wishart, who potentially it's in a club's option. So they have the option to take up with Tyron Wishart, but you would think there'd be clubs absolutely circling for Tyron Wishart. Trent Liero, another one. He is thereabouts to play State of Origin for Queensland. He's a back rower for the Melbourne Storm. Tui Kamikamitha, Josh King, Jonah Pezzett, Lazarus Vaialepu, and Grant Anderson, Christian Welsh, Bronson Garlick. So you could dead set run around and put yourself a good side out of that. But love to hear your thoughts.
And the other thing do? Predict what the broadcast numbers are going to be? So that they've got more cash to spend? What does that do to prices?
No, it doesn't do much to prices. A lot of these players that sign long-term deals, they'll have some sort of percentage increment in their contract to go, well, if the game goes up, the cap goes up, so does my pay. Yep. So we'll wait and see. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. 1355 0467 736 736. Who does the Broncos keep? I read through those names. Adam Reynolds, Blake Moser, Corey Jensen, Hetherington, Staggs, Walsh, Cobbo, Willison, Smoothie. Is there anyone there that I've mentioned that you may not agree with? Love to hear your thoughts. Plenty more to come on the show.